Okay, this tutorial is just a little short follow-up to the previous one about modeling the healing garden in Rhino. Since I got hung up a little bit there, I thought I would just go through a couple things, how to trim this wall out so we have room for the boulders and so it's not blocking the stairs. And I already split these. I think I went through that, but I was going to add in these other couple elements, the veins, do the extrude on the parking lot, apply some textures so you can see how we can use textures to create materials pretty quickly. So first, let's cut this wall out of the way. And I don't really need to know exactly. What I did was I drew a line. I just snapped a line from one edge to the other here. And I'm going to use another tool that I don't think we've talked about before, and it's under the solid tools category, and it's called wire cut. So when you choose wire cut, you have to have a line. It can be in any direction. It could be drawn on the face. In this case, I just drew it across the top. So I'm going to select the cutting line, select the objects to be cut, enter. And now it's allowing me to stretch that line out, kind of extrude it. So I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to snap it all the way to the bottom. And now it's allowing me to kind of cut that, extrude that line out to the edge. And I'm just going to go out again, at least that far, and then press enter to accept, and there we go. It just trims that piece right out of there interactively. So you could have a line that's curved, linear, you could have a bunch of polylines, angles, and it just allows you to slice right through anything in any direction. Okay, so now I've got that out of there. I can see this is actually lining up pretty well here. And I've got this surface and I've got that surface that's been cut into pieces. So what I want to do is start applying, well, let's get these veins put in here, and I actually have those, so we'll go back to our standard menu. We're going to use the split command again. I'm going to select this, this, and this. Select these, right click, and done. Okay, so you can't see them very well because we still have that same original texture, so I'm going to choose this surface, and I'm going to go to my material. I'm just going to choose default material so I can see these in here a little bit better. So I'll select that one and shift click on this one. Same thing, just apply default material so we can start seeing things a little bit better. Okay, now I can use the same, for right now I'll just use the grass texture. I'm going to pick this, I'm going to do new, and I think it's under special, grass, open, and give it a second. One thing I've noticed, I think I'm actually running Windows 10 on my computer, and for some reason it doesn't seem to update the textures all the time. So I'm going to switch back and forth here and see if I can get it going. There we go. Just there's some display issues with Windows 10 that I'm still working out, and it seems to affect a couple different 3D programs that I use. So anyway, it's there. Now what I could also do is select that. Let's go to mapping. We'll go to planar mapping, bounding box, world, UVW. So now that's got that down to a little better scale for what it's supposed to be. And again, I could go in here and select it, go back to my material, click on the bitmap texture, and I can adjust the repetition right here. And that's what I'll do for a couple of the other ones, and you'll see that when I come back to it. That's how I can change the scale of the texture, just by changing the how many times it repeats across the surface. But the mapping is the the first thing to do. And if I get this set on this one, then I can come in here, choose, well, I haven't split that one yet, so I can choose these objects. I'm just selecting all those individual pieces that are all the same. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my properties, choose match, pick the source material, click OK, and wait for it. Takes a little time to go through, pick everything. Now in this case, again, it's got all these selected. It's not exactly the same because of the coordinate system. So I'm going to go back here, choose planar mapping, bounding box, world, UVW. Give it a little time. Wait for it. There we go. So now there's still some adjustments in these. I'm not sure why those aren't fitting. So if I look at this again, back to materials, you can see that's set on 3. mapping channel 1, materials. That's also set in 3, mapping channel 1. So again, it should be lining up across there, but since it's not, I could always go in here and say 5, 5, and because it's going to add more repetitions across that surface, it should change the scale of it here. There we go. Change it down a little bit. Okay, so that's how you can adjust the scale of those textures as we place them across there and use the match command. Like I said, this is grass in the circle, but I haven't split that out yet. And I haven't split that one out yet. If you just want to apply a texture, so for example, I'll tell you what, let me split. I'm just going to get rid of these things. Let me import that other one in here. Import pattern circle. It's actually still got the veins in it too, but it's okay. Again, I'm going to pull those up off of here. So select those, get rid of them. I'm going to select all these and join them together because I don't think they are. And now I'm going to do my split command. Objects to split. This one, well, not that one, but it doesn't matter. Splitting objects. Now that's separate, and now that's separate. So again, just get rid of these. Come in here. That properties match source. So there we've got that applied. This is actually mulch here. And this one, same thing. Match. Okay, so we've got that applied in there. Let's see if I can match this one. There we go. Okay, so I've got those set up, and now I'm just going to apply, create a new texture for this. Instead of applying a material to it, I'm just going to, first thing I'm going to do is just do new, well, actually, I can just change it here. I can just click on Healing Garden. I can, oh, okay, so it's not, there we go. So let's go here, images and textures. All right, so maybe I don't have them in that folder, so let's go back to SketchUp. Can't remember where I put them. Okay, I know where else they are. Bear with me. SketchUp downloads, textures, bark chips. There we go. So I'm just picking a JPEG file. I know this is probably going to be big, so I'm just going to do 10. No, maybe do 30 and 30. Just guessing here. But I'm going to be bigger. Woo, hello. So I probably should have made that unique text. Oh, I know it did. So it just, let me undo that. The reason it did that, there we go, is because this texture, this is the image that I originally put on there. And since these are all the same, what I really need to do is take one of these areas and let's just, I'll do default and then duplicate. So now I have a unique material. I can select this, do that, and you can see that's some pretty big bark chips there. So I'm going to go through and try that 30, 30, and I just, by doing that, I made it unique. So now it's, and they're still a little big, but you get the idea. If I want to change it again, let's make it 60. Okay, so a little better. So once I've done that, now I can come through these areas, which I know are all the same. Go back to properties, match, click on that, and they look pretty good. In that case, they all line up pretty much the same there. You can see kind of the repetition of stripe in there. So anyway, that's, you just need to make the unique material. Otherwise, it's going to replace all this. In this case, I know that's actually lawn, so I want to match that with that. And then I can go through, and if I wanted to find a concrete material for the sidewalk and so forth. This one, I think there's a material in the stone called cobbles, but you have that image. I'm not going to do that right now, but this is a pre-built material. And let's see what we got here. Yeah, rendered. So cobblestone, planar mapping, bounding box, world, UVW. And then I can go in there again if I go back to the texture properties, I can say repeat 10 and 10. I want them half the size, and that'll adjust them to half the size. So you can use that image that I created for the that I provided for that stone and apply that to it. So just be sure, if once you apply this image, if you want to change something, you need to apply a unique material to it, so that otherwise when you change this, it's going to change everywhere else where it's applied, because it's all the same texture. It's just broken up into pieces. So just apply a unique material and then swap out the texture. I usually just go with the default. Obviously, I haven't been very good at changing the names in here, but I can go in and rename those so I know exactly what they are, and then reuse them. Just like the paint bucket, you hold the, I think the Alt key down, you get the eyedropper, you pick it up, and then you put it down on something else. That's basically the same as the match command in Rhino. So you can see then I can just apply those different surfaces, and then still have the railings to do, and the building. That's going to be the subject of another tutorial, because Rhino doesn't really have the same kind of function, the floating pin method, but I think I'll do another tutorial that talks about how you can actually create those orthographic views from Photoshop using the perspective crop tool, and then we can just map those onto the surfaces in Rhino, just using the same type of commands that I've been demonstrating here. The only other thing then is we have a parking lot. I want to extrude that surface. So I want to go down. I want to make sure that I put solid no, because I don't want it to continue to have a top surface on it. So I'm just going to do minus 0.5. And you can see now that it basically dropped that down, and I've got my 6-inch curve there. It also deleted the surface. Okay, so let's try this. Let's undo that. Let's right click, delete input, no, solid no, minus 0.5. And I think I can select that top surface. And now I've got the all right. So I just Control Shift Delete. The first thing I deleted was the original surface, which I should have said delete input. Then it still had the top on it, so I just used Control Shift Select. So I selected just the top surface and deleted that out of there. And if you want to do this, you can Shift Select these and delete them if you don't want that little edge there as well. But that gives me the 6-inch curb and the solid parking lot that I can apply a texture to and make that work. Okay, so I just did the extrude, -5, deleted the extra pieces that I didn't need, and then I'm ready to, object, default materials applied to it already, so that's good. Okay, so that's just a quick tutorial how to trim this wall out, and then start applying those textures and adjust them using the planar mapping and clicking on the image map link and adjusting the repeat count so that we get finer textures that match kind of what we want. So if I have time later on, I'll do another tutorial that addresses creating the building and how to map those photographic images that I had from the site onto that object that represents the building. And the rest of these surfaces, again, we can go back to that one. That's mulch there, so match this. Okay, that's done. And you can work up the textures and go in and actually adjust the, like this one. If we go into our material and we show mapping, we can come in here and grab this and rotate that around, which is really nice. Once you have that planar mapping, you can do that. So when you apply a texture, if I wanted to apply that to, undo that, if I wanted to apply that to this surface, so I could come in here, do a match. Okay, now I'm going to do the planar mapping, bounding box, world, UVW, and if I want to come in here and adjust the scale, let's reduce this down, so like 5 and 5. So it's a little bigger, and then I can go back to my mapping and say show mapping, and I can rotate this around so it lines up precisely with the edges there. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so that's how you can use that mapping tool in order to go in there and adjust those textures once you have them applied. And maybe if I select this shape and just apply default material to it, now you can see how that edge, I go in here, back to the textures, hide mapping, that'll turn that off. Okay, so that's one other nice thing about Rhino. Once you use that, it's got definitely more sophisticated texture mapping system once you figure it out, so you can apply a texture and then just rotate it around in place. Now again, in SketchUp you can do that on a planar surface, but this isn't a planar surface, and that's something SketchUp can't do. So anyway, keep that in mind. Use the custom textures that you're supposed to, and then map them and adjust them to fit once you've got them on the surface itself.